Welcome back to Chase's Everything Shooting. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's a little bit longer than normal, but it's got a lot of great information in it. And it's about reloading for big game hunting. Doing, Tim?
Fine, thanks. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing excellent. Looking forward to seeing you here in a few weeks.
Oh,
Hey,
you bet.
I
Us too.
just wanted to talk about reloading for big game hunting. And I know you've been doing it for a lot of years. So you've got the floor. You tell me a little bit about your reloading for big game hunting.
Okay, well, I started reloading about 57 years with a little hand press to load 20 gauge shot shells. And I progressed through several different reloaders. And right now I have a single stage RCBS rock chucker for my rifle cartridges. And almost all of my pistol cartridges are loaded on a Dillon XL 750. And my shot shells, I have a mech press that I bought from you.
All right.
So
I hope it's
um,
working.
we'll talk about that later. No,
I get it. I get it.
yeah, big game hunting. I think you're probably talking about big dangerous game like Alaska or Canada or Africa. And I have three basic hunting rifles that I use. For the smaller stuff, it'd be um, a Winchester Model 70 Post 64 in 7mm Remington Magnum. And then the next one up is a 375 H&H Magnum, which I put together on a Mauser Action. And the third one is a 470 Nitro Express double rifle. And I've only used the 470 on a couple of occasions, and it worked really well because it's one of those things that it's a tool because it punishes on one end and kills on the other. So the 375 is my main dangerous game rifle. And just because it's a dangerous game rifle doesn't mean I can't use it on small stuff. I've shot stuff down as small as 40 pounds. And it's one of those things people think, oh, it's going to blow it in the smithereens. No, it leaves a hole going in, hole going out, and that's it. Um, so anyway, I've been to Africa 6 times, starting in 1992. And my wife Vicky's been with me 5 of those times, and then we're going to Uganda next April. And there won't be any dangerous game on that I know of, but who knows what might happen. Because the rule of thumb is if you're in an area that has dangerous game, you should have a rifle close at hand that's capable of dealing with it in case one of them gets a little cheeky and you have to shoot in self-defense.
Yeah, I get that.
So,
Hey, you know
um,
what? There's at the very front of this video, there is that video of you in when you were in Africa on
right.
one of your safaris, and it's all the people singing and dancing and celebrating. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's usually reserved for the cats, lion and leopard. And that scene was when I successfully took a lioness that had been beating up the buffalo population in the area. The buffalo population got too small and the lion population got too large. So the Zimbabwe Parks Department gave out 4 permits in 2011 and 4 in 2012 for lionesses to check the population a little bit. And I took one of those. And the natives over there, they don't revere their big cats. They're afraid of them because they lose their livestock to them. They lose their children on occasion to them. It's it can be a really dangerous thing to be living in a little wood, mud, and thatch hut and have a 450-pound cat interested in what you had for dinner. And so whenever a cat is taken like that, when you come back to camp, they celebrate. And you may have noticed that I didn't do much dancing in that thing because I'm the poster boy for White Man Can't Dance.
Hey, well, I wanted to, one of the things I really wanted to kind of talk about and have you explain, and I didn't even understand this when we had first met. We've been friends and shooting for a long time together, but was is that this isn't just go out and shoot things
No.
with these safaris. They're all planned out by the government and by their game departments, and they pick out the game that they want to be neutralized. And can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah. At one time, the Zimbabwe Parks Department was as good a game management organization as there exists in the world, and they're still pretty good. But they do take surveys. They do listen to the natives that live in the rural areas, and they try to deal with it. And they're more than happy to have an American or British or European or any kind of hunter come over and spend some significant amount of cash to take care of the problems. And again, that was the lioness that I took in 2012. And also took a tuskless cow elephant there. The population in this Zambezi Valley is a little too high, somewhere between 10 and 15% of elephant females, cows with no tusks. And a tusk is a working tool to gather food. And when an elephant doesn't have tusks, they tend to just kind of beat up some other elephant that's already gathered the food. It makes them aggressive. And aggressive and elephant are two words you don't want in the same sentence. And elephant populations in Zimbabwe are more than twice what land can support. So they take to raiding the crops. And in one night, a couple, 3 elephants can ruin what you plan to feed your family with for the next 6 months. So, it's a real problem for the native population. And also, everything that is taken on safari cannot, in terms of meat, cannot be brought back to the United States. But it's not wasted. It's used to feed the local people. They'll take and cut up the meat into long strips and dry it in the blazing sun. And it becomes so hard you could actually chip a tooth on it. And so they'll take pieces of it, put in some boiling water, throw in a little cornmeal, and they can eat that. They might have the animal that's shot in June or July in their cook pots in December. And it's pretty much the only protein they get a chance to have. So it's not wasted. I mean, when I shot that tuskless cow elephant, within 2 days, there was nothing but bones left. Between the natives came out there and they just cut it up into pieces, and the head person doled it all out, and they were very grateful. And
Well, that's great. It's a lot of people don't understand that, and quite honestly, I didn't understand it when we first met, and I wasn't against big game hunting by any means, but it was kind of one of those things where it really people don't understand that. And now I run into people and I'll hear them say, oh, that's the worst thing. And then when I explain to them, hey, this is what's going on, it really
Hmm.
makes a difference. Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
know that. And it's kind of like the best kept secret out there.
yeah. It is, and also there's another thing about tuskless cow elephants. It's a recessive gene, and recent research has shown that when a tuskless cow is impregnated with a bull calf, it's well past 90% of them that get aborted. And so basically, this animal is not reproducing like they should. So the idea is to take that gene out or at least reduce its effect. And I mentioned that there's twice as many elephant and maybe more than that in Zimbabwe. It hasn't been until 70, well, the last 20 years, maybe less than that, that they've figured out a way to transport and translocate elephant. It's a very tricky process, and it's a good $60,000 US to just get started on it. Um, Elephant do not have an epiglottis, which means they breathe through their nose and they eat through their mouth. There's no connection. And so if you dart an elephant and knock them down, you have to be very careful to get the trunk stretched out, make sure they're breathing. And it's a touchy thing. You don't really want to kill an elephant unnecessarily. So it's important, but a lot of people don't want to pony up the money to transport something like that because, as I said, it's really expensive. So,
Well, and I think game management is important everywhere.
oh
And
yeah.
that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. I'm a deer hunter, and I'll tell you, people will say something to me about it. Hey, when I harvest a deer, I eat the deer. It's not just left there. I'm not just going out for fun shooting it. It's consumed, and that's kind of one of the things is a buddy of mine here has works on a big hunting area, and they have to call 40 to 60 deer a year just to keep the
Hmm.
population where they have to be. Pardon me. So, game management's super important. But I'm going to flip off of that and let's get back to the reloading
The
side of this.
reloading.
And
Yeah.
tell me, what are your favorite calibers, and why are they your favorite calibers?
Well, I probably have about 25 different calibers that I load for, handgun and rifle and shotgun. It might be more than that. I haven't counted. So I, like I said, I have the three favorite rifles: the 7 millimeter Remington Magnum, the 375 H&H, and of course I love my 470, but it's not used very often. Um, People ask, well, what is it that you want to reload and why? And there's five reasons to reload. One is to save money. The second one is to be able to load for obsolete calibers that you can't buy ammunition for anymore. And I have several of those. Um, Improving the accuracy and performance and the personal satisfaction of doing a job. And when you take that hand loaded ammunition on a dangerous game hunt, it's adds another level of excitement. And it also gives you confidence because you loaded it and you know it's done right. And the last thing, which is relatively recent, is to be able to endure shortages in ammunition. We've had that problem off and on for the last several years. And as you and I discussed earlier, the worldwide conflicts are draining the supply of powders to reload. And the lead prices for cast bullets and shot for shotguns has gone up quite a bit. So having stuff to reload and keeping a stockpile of it, it enables you to get through the rough spots. Also, in the state of California, they haven't yet made it illegal or highly regulated to buy components. So, instead of going down and paying them for the privilege of registering every box of ammunition I buy, I can reload my own.
Well, and that is definitely a good reason. Just because you don't want, to put your name out there for buying ammunition and stuff, and I
Yeah.
totally get that. And I have to say, I'm very happy that I'm outside the Republic of California.
Spelled with a K.
So let me ask you this, and you were talking earlier and about the Reading dies that you've used and how precise they are. And I'm not advertising for anybody. I'm
Mhm.
just kind of saying, hey, we talked about this before. Can you tell me what you like about those dies and the different dies that you do use?
Yeah. There's a whole lot of manufacturers that make good reloading dies. But the thing I like about the Lyman and the Reading and some of those others, they're micrometer seating dies. And seating depth is critically important with some calibers and some rifles and some different ammunition. So it's nice to be able to run a vernier caliper on something and find out, I need to shorten this by 5 thousandths or lengthen it 5 thousandths, and I can click on that die at 5 thousandths of an inch, and that's what I get. So it's better than loosening the lock ring and twisting the die. Is this enough or too much? And then tightening the lock ring and doing it again. So it can literally take 5 seconds as opposed to 2 or 3 minutes to make an adjustment.
Well, that's good. That's good information to have. One of the things that is really controversial out there, and I want to ask you about it, is annealing.
Hmm.
And there's people that go, you gotta anneal, and no, you don't. And from someone who's been doing it for 57 years, I kind of want to ask, what do you think?
I don't intend to criticize anybody if they want to anneal. I think it depends on what you're doing and how important it is to you. I mean, bench rest people, they're looking for that extra 10 or 20 thousandths of an inch improvement in their groups, and they're real fussy. And there's the people that just want to go out and shoot, and I just don't think that's important for them. But I have never gotten into annealing because I never felt I needed to. The targets I sent you, those 3-shot groups with a couple of those rifles, the average person is never going to beat those groups in size. So I guess it depends almost 100% on what you want to do, how important it is to you. And I'm not going to criticize somebody for doing it or not doing it.
Well, I get that. That's good. So really, what I'm getting is that you don't anneal, but you see that there's a reason for it for some
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Well,
Well,
there is one other reason to anneal, and
okay.
that's to stretch the life of your brass a little bit. But if you don't, shoot a huge amount of cartridges, it probably isn't an issue. So,
Okay, well that makes sense. Well, so I wanted to also, I'm kind of going back through my notes here and looking at what we've talked about in the past. But in your reloading, and I know we've shot a lot of shotgun shells together, and a lot of small caliber handguns. But
yeah.
but in your experience, is there any brass or bullet or primer or powder that you think is the best for what you do in big game hunting?
The big calibers use real slow burning powders. And I grew up using IMR powders. And so I'm still, I don't want to fix something that isn't broken. So I use IMR 4350 and IMR 4831 in several of my bigger calibers. Um, and with a handgun, I try to use tight group because it's can be used for shot shells. It can be, and I load it in 9 millimeter, 40, 10 millimeter, uh, and 45. And I don't know, sorry, I load a lot of 45s because my wife is a 45 gal.
Oh yes, Vicky definitely. And she doesn't believe in a 9 millimeter, which which is funny. But
Yeah. Well, we have had to back off a little bit as we've gotten a little older and not as strong. But there was a time when she told me if you ever want a divorce, you don't have to ask. Just bring home a 9 millimeter and I'll give you one.
well,
I don't think she really meant it, but I haven't tested it.
she's a spicy woman, so I
Amen.
can believe it. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, part of the big game hunting is the preparation and getting there. And I know that there's some regulations on taking your guns and taking your ammunition. Can you kind of explain that?
Um, there's not that much of a problem if you're traveling domestically. You just basically go into the airport and tell them you have a firearm, and if they want to open it up right there and look at it, you open up your case, and if they don't, then they'll take it down below and open it up. But the thing about it is, you need to sign a certificate saying it's unloaded, and they're big on liking you to use TSA approved locks. Okay, well, on a firearm case, that is technically against the law because you are supposed to be the only person who can open that case. For ammunition, it needs to be separate and in a locked container. And you can get a pamphlet on what the TSA says about traveling with firearms. And I always get a current one and I stick it in my gun case. That way, if there's ever any question, I can hold it out and say, well, this is what your boss says. And the other thing is that with handguns, there's a number that you can carry in one case. And um, again, check the regulations because they do change. And a lot of it depends on who is in charge of the TSA airport that you're going to. Because I have gone cruise through San Francisco with no trouble at all and had everything short of a body cavity check in Juneau, Alaska. So, you know, hope for the best and make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's. Um,
Now, are there any when you've gone to Africa, are there any
yeah,
restrictions by the African governments about bringing in your ammunition or your
yeah,
firearms
there
or any of
are a
that?
lot of those. First of all, you need to go to your Customs and Border Patrol local area and make an appointment and bring all the guns in you're going to take, and they'll examine them and they'll write all the serial numbers down. And that way, that or they know that you left the country with that firearm, and so therefore you can bring it back in. That 4457 form was supposed to be for high dollar items, like if you had a Rolex watch, you went down there and they wrote it down, so they didn't want to charge you duty when you're coming back in. But it's become a firearms export permit de facto, and a lot of the third world countries are looking at that as a firearms permit because they don't understand that we don't need that kind of stuff over here. So, um, one of the best pieces of advice I can give you if you're traveling internationally, um, get somebody who knows what they're doing, a travel agency that can handle all of this. And there's a lot of them. And they'll make sure there aren't any mistakes because the last thing you want to do is have somebody mess with your guns in a foreign country.
Yeah, I can see that that would be a huge, huge issue
Yeah, yeah,
because there's a lot of foreign countries out there that you can't come in with a firearm. So
yeah,
I can see how that would be a real huge issue. Well,
yeah.
so
In some
go ahead.
cases, one of these travel agents that specializes in that can actually do a lot of that paperwork. And when people go to Southern Africa, majority of the time they're going to go through Johannesburg. And some of these organizations have people on the ground there that can actually, meet you at the entry point for the country and can deal with or hand you your visa and walk you through it all. And they know the people there at the airport. And, it's pretty seamless that way.
Well, that's good. I would hope so, but when you get outside the U.S. and it's even hanky in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I get it when you get to a foreign country, and quite honestly, I mean, I've definitely traveled with my firearms, and there's a trick to it, and you got to look at what the airline allows also,
Yes, indeed.
because TSA can go several different ways, but
Mhm.
the airline, that's their thing. So
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
it's been amazing, and I will tell you, flying in and out of Texas, even some of our airport and TSA people are a little weird, and handguns are and rifles and shotguns are pretty prevalent in this state. So
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
I get that there should be some issue. There could be some issues there. Well,
Well,
so
one other thing, Will,
okay,
there's an international tariff that all the airlines follow on ammunition, and that is you can have no more than 5 kilograms per person. And if there's more than one person, that would need to be separate. So it's important to know how much ammunition you're carrying and that it doesn't exceed essentially 11 pounds. And that's something that can get you in trouble.
so when you and Vicky go to Africa for a safari, do you she's not taking the same calibers that you are, is she?
No,
So she has to have her own ammunition.
right.
So you've got to keep them separate. That way that you don't exceed your 11 pounds.
Yes, exactly. It's really a fair amount of ammunition, but when you get into some bigger calibers, it weighs a lot more.
Yeah, I can believe that. Well, so do you have any other great words of wisdom for reloaders, and especially big game reloaders?
Um, Cautious. When I reload anything, doesn't matter what it is, I don't allow anybody else in the room, and I don't have any music on or any other distractions. And if somebody walks into the room, like my wife wanted to say something to me, I stop, turn around, talk to that person, and then when I'm done, I turn around and say, "Okay, where was I?" And it's important that if you plan on loading 2 different calibers with 2 different powders, that you only have the stuff for one of them out. The rest of it should be out of reach, so you don't make a mistake and grab the wrong thing. Um, I know a lot of people use some sort of a powder measure with a reservoir in it, and last thing in the world you want to do is dump one powder in on top of another one, because then you really should throw all of it away.
Yep. No, I get it. Hey, I
Mhm.
hate to tell you, but we're running out of time here. Hey, it's been great. I appreciate all the great knowledge you've bestowed on us, and we'll be catching you in a few weeks.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing you again, Will, and
All
Gail
right.
too. Okay,
We'll talk to you later on.
sounds good.